the border. The impact of PTM would be on the Pashtun belt in the Pakistan also, and its impact would be in the Afghanistan also, because PTM is against the strategic game of the military establishment of Pakistan. And once we manage to stop and contain this strategic game, things will get better across the board. And this strategic game is, we have been time and again told that this is not going to happen anymore, but there is nothing, that the facts on the ground are telling something else. The Project Taliban doesn't seem to be coming to an end till now, because even after such a long operation of Operation Zarb-e-Azab in North Waziristan, we have seen 25 attacks of target killing, and the militants, they came very easily, and they kill the person in their home, in their hujra, in their village, and they go away very easily. And instead of all the checkposts, instead of all these things, instead of all their security measures, they are coming, which means that they are still, they can still attack, they can still, they have still their connections, they have still, they haven't been dismantled that much so far. So these things, which it brings to our mind two things, that either there is a problem with the will, or there is a problem with the capacity. So it has to be verified that if there is a problem with the will, we have to work on that will, and we have to keep the pressure on until we make, when we force them to make a will to take action against these militants. And if there is a problem with the capacity, then these things also should be made very, very much clear, to seek the help of the rest of the world, that we are not able to counter this. We need help in that. But things have to be made clear, that why is everything still happening on. So the pressure which beating trying to create is that we don't want wars anymore on our land, and we know that there is a new thing coming on to the region with the name of CPEC, and the Chinese, even from now on, their diplomats are behind like the viceroys. So these things also have to be kept in mind, and in the context of all these things, we will keep the pressure on to keep things transparent and in the favor of our people, in the favor of our region. We are not going to let them use our land for their strategic interest anymore.
Thank you very much. Questions around the room, and feel free to introduce yourself too.
Thank you so much, Wasim, for your comments. My name is Akriti Vasudeva Stimson. I'm the managing editor of our magazine that focuses on security and politics in the subcontinent. So I have two sort of questions related to the PTM movement. One was, there was sort of a blackout by the mainstream media in Pakistan to talk about the movement. There wasn't so much coverage on what the objectives of the movement were and what you guys were trying to do. So can you talk a little bit about that? And the second question I had was, what is the objective going forward? What are sort of the next steps for the movement? Because you've already sort of done, the sit-ins, you are talking about making a change, you're talking about rule of law, but what are sort of the next steps in achieving that?
Well, in the response of your second question, PTM is a civil rights movement, and it will keep going on until, as I told you, until there is an end of the war, until all the missing persons are produced in the courts, until the mines are cleared, until the entire, part of the belt is cleared from mines. And it's, we have a long way to go to get all these things and to bring an end to the project in which too much have been invested by the military establishment. It will take too much time, but we have to keep the pressure on until we come to a conclusion that we either force them or either they, at least start thinking that now the people are aware, and now we can't, mold them in the way we used to be doing in the past. So it has to be, we have to go a long way. For the first question about the media, yes, there still is a complete blackout. The Pakistani media, this has only been used against us for the propaganda. They have given us very effective coverage only when they want to something negative, portray something negative about us, because they haven't. They're always present in our rallies with their cameras, but their objective is not to give us a coverage of or what we are saying. They are there to wait for any kind of mishap. If someone is coming with the Pakistani flag and they send someone else who then confront them, and this planted story is portrayed, and this is shown with a very big hype. So Pakistani media, but we have used social media as a very effective tool, and as I have said it time and again, this movement wouldn't have been possible without the use of social media. So we have used Facebook and Twitter and all the other sources of media very effectively, and it has played. And this is the only reason they are not allowing internet in FATA and Waziristan. There is no internet in FATA, and even in some of the offices where they have given, where they have made this facility for their own selves, internet is not. They are not allowing getting an internet connection is almost impossible for a citizen of Waziristan or the entire FATA, because social media is, it's a kind of a check, and which keep you to be in discipline, because it shows everything. It's a natural kind of check and balance, and if there is something happening, if there is any kind of mishap in any area of the when internet is there, it shows it to the entire world. And in the recently in one of the incident where a young guy was shot at a checkpost by a military, and then we had a sit-in for 3 days in Miran. After that, we had some dialogue with them. They accepted that yes, it was a fault, and we will be making inquiry against all these people involved, and the person will be compensated, and we'll be careful in the future. But then when we dispersed, the DGI SPR, quoting one of the report of VOA, he said that nothing like that has happened. We haven't done anything. We haven't fired anything. Yes, an inquiry has been made. So if an inquiry has been made, how come you can say that like we haven't done anything? You are announcing, but to counter him, I responded him on the Twitter also, but I had a video footage in which a soldier was firing, an unarmed person was firing from a checkpost, and when they hit a young man of almost 12 to 13 years, which has been shown in that video. So when I put that on social media, they couldn't deny it. So this is something that this is why they are very much careful about. So the internet. Our first focus after being elected a member is to put the pressure on to at least give an access to the entire population to use internet.
Hi, Richard Ponzi, also here at Citizen. Afghanistan, to what extent is it previously the driving factor for violence tensions within Waziristan and FATA, but today, has it changed, and do you point the finger more at Islamabad for the situation that the issues that PTM focuses on, or do you think there has to be a resolution of the conflict within Afghanistan? And of course, many of us here in Washington, there have been so many attempts to involve the Pakistani government, different parts of the government, to get other configurations. China involved four-way dialogues with Islamabad and Kabul. What are some of the your own maybe personal thoughts or PPM's thoughts on the situation in Afghanistan as it relates to your region?
Well, I think as I said in the start that the peace in almost both areas is very much co-related with each other, because it won't come in isolation. If there is a peace in Pakistan, it can only happen if there is a peace in Afghanistan. And when there is peace in Afghanistan, it will definitely, have an impact on Pakistan also. So if we think about a peaceful region, it will be across the border, across the Durrani line. It doesn't, we can't say that the Fatah will be peaceful, the Pashtun belt in the Pakistan will be peaceful, and there will be still an insurgency in Afghanistan. It's not going to happen anymore. And both the entire region is very much, connected. It's very much their peace is very much interrelated to each other, and that's why in the start of my talk I said that the main objective is to bring an end to the strategic depth game. If this project comes to an end, I think it would have an impact on both Pakistan and Afghanistan also. Now, about the other stakeholders, yes, they had their own vested interests. Some want things to be resolved, and some still want. But I still think that the sincerity of the state of Pakistan matters a lot in their course of action. And if they make a will, because we have seen some very good well gestures from the Afghanistan's president, and when he was elected, he went to GHQ. He still, but the response has to be from both ways, from both sides, and we still think and believe that Pakistan is because the entire game has been played from Pakistan, and we can't ignore their role, but I can say that their will and their attitude in resolving the entire problem is very much important. That's why we are building this pressure to bring an end to whatever has been happening in this region.
And just a quick follow-up, it sounds from your answer that the Pakistan-Afghan relationship is the most important. Would you say it's more important, though, than what's called an intra-Afghan dialogue within the borders of, with the Durrani line and the current borders within Afghanistan? Or is it regional powers, and besides China and the US, there's talk of India, Iran, other major regional. What is the most important dialogue that needs to succeed?
Well, I think the problem here is that we can't ignore the regional powers also, but these regional powers, as again, they have been using the kind of the local powers for their own vested interests. So they can't, interfere directly, and they can't, work directly. Whatever has been happening in US or in Afghanistan, because the US has a very, deep presence in Afghanistan. So they can't be ignored. But what I was trying to say is that the will of the Pakistan state is something which will matters a lot in resolving the entire problems. Yes, the regional powers, as I said, we can't ignore them also. They have their own, because China is coming with CPEC, and there might be some kind of hurdles or some kind of confrontations to counter that also. So these the terms and conditions had to be verified, and if they're not verified, most of the other regional powers might not agree with that. So this conflict, again, I would say that if we make our mind, the state of Pakistan make our mind, and Afghanistan, I believe that thing, as I said, that we can't ignore the regional powers also. All these things, all the regional powers has to be on board also, specifically US, because it has a very big presence in Afghanistan. China is now getting an entry in the region. So all these regional powers, but the main focus still has to be between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But we have to make a will for that with sincerity. Otherwise, we will meet 1,000 times, but the result will be the same.
Hi, I'm Emily Tallow. I work in the Saudi program. I have two questions. First of all, can you talk a little bit about how PTM thinks about the United States? If it thinks about the United States at all, and with regards to Pakistan specifically, I would say that you said your main goal is to eliminate the strategic depth game, which I think is probably something most people in the United States would agree with. So how do you see those goals, the United States goals in the region, and your goals aligning, if at all? And second question is, could you just talk about the FATA KPK merger and how that's going?
Thank you. Well, the first thing is that we have only made a change. We were only able to bring a change when we managed to get a support from our own people. And when our own people stood against whatever has been happening in the region. As long as the role of US is concerned in the entire region, we can't ignore. But at the same time, all these things have been happening, and everybody was watching it. The amount of money the US government has paid the Pakistani military, I think it went unaudited, it went unaccountable, and which shouldn't have been like that. And instead of solving the problem, it had made them even more. It had given the Pakistan military even more strength to launch such kind of fake operations against our people. Now, after 15 years at least, the US government has realized that there was a double game, and we have been saying that from a very long time as a political worker, and now from the platform of PTM, we have the same opinion that there was a double game, and there still is a double game, but it shouldn't have taken 15 years for the US government to realize. I think they might have realized, because in most of the talks, but they should have came very clear and open long ago than now, because things would have been a bit different if it had happened a bit earlier. So now for us, the opinion and the support of our own people, it matters the most. Yes, we will, we are conveying our message to the entire international community, to the US, to other areas, that this is the actual situation on ground, and you people must keep in mind all these things before making any kind of, because it is direct voice coming from the place, from that area, and all these things have to be keep in mind. And even if there is a reaction from the state against such kind of voices, then at least nobody should keep silence. whether it is US, whether it is the rest of the world. If someone is coming out very clearly against the entire game, which has led to the deaths of thousands, and thousands have been injured and thousands died in that game. So at least if a voice is coming for peace and prosperity in the region, it should be supported by everybody across the board. And the other question was? But, well, PTM in its official capacity was silent about FATA because of some reason. In my personal opinion, I was one of the biggest advocates of FATA reform and FATA merger. I have been writing about that. We have been protesting about that. We have been asking for it. But there was a slight difference of opinion within PTM, so that's why we kept. We just want to keep our orbit a bit small, just to get more and more people on board. So wherever there is even a slight difference of opinion, we do not touch that issue. But yes, part of reform, it happened. But it's also a fact that it happened due to the pressure of PTM, because they were not going to do it, from the last 5 years. There have been bills passed by the parliamentarians, the committee reports and everything was there, but they were still not going to do it. Now they thought that we might diffuse the support base of PTM with FATA reforms, which didn't happen, and now I think they are regretting about that we have whatever we have done, because the statements I have seen even from the Chief Justice of Supreme Court, he was also saying something like that. But things now, it has been done. The constitutional amendment has been done. What they can do now is just delay the process of mainstreaming. That the main objective was the constitutional amendment, which has already been done.
Hi, my name is Eyal Hanfling. I'm also a research assistant in the South Asia program. Just two small parts of the question. Now that the elections are over, what is the opinion of the civilian government of the PTM? And also, what is the feeling outside of Waziristan and outside of the Pashtun community among the popular citizenry about PTM? What do people think about it?
The first thing is about the civilian government. The civilian government was always, very supportive. They were very, they had a very good reception about the demands of PTM. But the thing is that sometimes many things happen in Pakistan with civilian government don't even know about what's happening now, because when during already in Karachi, when we were called for a meeting with the civilian administration, and the Commissioner of Karachi was there, the additional IG police was there, and all the administration of the province was there. When we reached I entered the Commissioner house, I was followed by my other members, and when they reached the Commissioner at the gate of the Commissioner house, they were picked up by the agencies. And then I told the Commissioner that, what the hell is this? Did you call us for that? Then he was calling one and another to trace the people where they are. So he couldn't even find the people, for after being trying for 2 and 3 hours. So, but later on we came to know that they have been taken by agencies and they have been handed over to the rangers now. So as long as the civilian leadership is concerned, almost everybody has endorsed the narrative of PTM. Someone do it a bit softly, someone do it a bit clearly and loudly, and someone do it even more passively between the lines. But almost nobody is denying it. But yes, still there are too many things which happen in Pakistan without the civilian government even knowing about it. Like something which happened a few days ago with Gulala Ismail, something which happened in Sawabi. When we contacted the civilian authorities, the political government, the provincial, they don't even know about what's happening. So that is the political dynamics of Pakistan, which shows we intend something else. And the other question asked?
The question is about popular support outside of Waziristan, outside of the Pashtuns.
Yes, we had some very good rallies for the first time after a very long time. We had a Pashtun-centric movement had a very good rally in Lahore, and then we had instead of all the hurdles created by the government, the military, the agencies, we had a very massive rally in Karachi. Instead of the fact that we were not allowed for a campaign for that, whenever we used to go for, because me and my other friends, Ali Wazir and other, we went to campaign to arrange some small meetings in some areas, and all these people who were present in the meeting were charged by police under the anti-terrorism acts. And after that, in some cases, we went with a friend for a dinner in some area in Karachi. Or the next day we came to know that they have lodged an FIR against the person who invited us for the dinner and all those who has participated. Look, they didn't know what we spoke in an apartment in Karachi. They have just said that we were conspiring against the country. So instead of all these hurdles, that we were not even allowed to eat food with someone, still we managed to get a very big support, a very massive rally in Karachi. So we have support across the board, and everybody, even all the political parties in Pakistan, are now endorsing the narrative of Pashtun Tahaffuz movement. Specifically after the election 2018. Yes, please.
My name is Rida Yunus. I also work for the South Asia program at the Stimson Center. So I just had a question on some of the terms that you've used, like, because they're very reminiscent of the NQM to me because of grievances and being reactive to tragic events and then mobilizing an ethnic community. So how do you see the PTM, how do you prevent the PTM from spiraling into this violent or destabilizing force, and how do you prevent it from suffering like the same fate that the NQM has?
Well, the leadership of PTM is along with their supporters on ground in Pakistan. So we will always be the first one to face whatever happens to PTM. And secondly, as long as we are convinced or one and only one thing, that this moment will be non-violent. Non-violence is our strength, and we will fight with non-violence, and we have proved it. Because we have seen too many citizens in Pakistan which became violent. We have seen citizens of some religious groups which became violent, which ended on violence. We have seen citizens of even very big political parties which brought too much violence to the city. And comparative to that, PTM had a rally in Islamabad which was too much peaceful, that even not a single flower was plucked during the 12 to 11 days sitting in Islamabad. Followed by that, all the rallies which we have arranged, there was not a single incident of violence reported in that. Even in most of the rallies, there were some planted people which were sent to make a chaos and destabilize and disturb the rally, and 10 to 15 people came to our rallies, started chanting against us with derogatory slogans, but we still didn't respond to that. And secondly, in most of the cases, in terms of the female participation, we have seen that some of the female activists who joined our rallies in Lahore and in Karachi, after every rally, they have, they have said very openly on social media, and even they have run some social media trends also.